It's kind of weird because Jake Paul is extremely bigger than Tank. And I mean, but with it being a exhibition, makes sense.
Start like this. First of all, if you're a boxer and you're not taking note or notice of what Jake Paul is doing, you're worried about criticizing his boxing skills, then you're the fool.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. They just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135 pounder going up against a 200 pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big.
Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis are finally set to face each other, and even boxing legends are talking about it. Tank is known for his knockout power, speed, and experience against top fighters, while Jake comes in with size, reach, and the backing of a huge fan base. Most believe Davis will control the fight with his skill and sharp movement, but some think Paul's advantages and ability to surprise people could make this one of the biggest upsets of the year.
You know what? Fair play. If he does go out and fight Anthony Joshua, which I wouldn't advise because that would be extremely dangerous, then fair play if he was to do that. And all the critics and people like myself would have to shut the hell up, because I always said he's looking for fights that were manufactured, looking for fights that were predetermined. And by that, I don't mean fake fights. I don't mean fixed fights. I mean fights where the odds are so stacked in his favor that of course he's going to win. And of course, we see this. The latest match that's going to go down November 14th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Jake Paul is taking on, you've seen it by now, Gervonta Tank Davis. A man that is a lightweight in boxing. Now, lightweight in MMA is 155 pounds. Lightweight in boxing, 135 pounds. Jake Paul, I think when he weighed in for Mike Tyson, was 227 pounds.
Official weight, 227.2 pounds.
That is, if I'm not mistaken, a 92-pound weight difference. Almost a 100-pound weight difference. It's insane. Let's say he comes in at 200 pounds. It's still a 65-pound weight advantage, which is absolutely ridiculous. How can you be out there claiming to want to fight the best people on the planet and then going out there and taking on a guy that is maybe 92 pounds heavier, that is at least 65 pounds heavier than you? That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, oh, I just beat the man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
The fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis has been moved from Atlanta to the Casa Center in Miami and will take place on November 14th, streamed worldwide on Netflix. MVP announced the change, saying it's the same fight and same date, just a new city. While some see it as a big show, it has been confirmed as an exhibition match. A major talking point is the big size difference. Paul recently fought at about 199 pounds at cruiserweight, while Davis has been fighting around 135 pounds. Because of this gap, Davis's WBA lightweight title will not be on the line. The full details of the fight are still unclear, as there is no confirmed contract weight, number of rounds, or confirmation if it will follow standard boxing rules. Many people see it more as a crossover event or entertainment show rather than a real title fight, which has sparked debate about fairness, safety, and respect for boxing's weight classes.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Hank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skill, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Hank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you. value, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
Terrence Crawford is doubtful about the upcoming fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis, mainly because of the big size difference. He sees it more as a show than a real competitive fight, saying it looks more like a sparring session. Crawford admits Davis is a top-level fighter with great skills and power, but if Paul uses his bigger size and lands a clean shot, things could change quickly. Still, Crawford believes the weight gap makes it hard to see this as a fair fight between equals.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis. They just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Shakur Stevenson, an undefeated and respected fighter, sees the matchup between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis as unfair because of Paul's much bigger size. Still, he believes Davis's experience, skill, and ring IQ will make the fight look easy for him. Stevenson expects Davis to use movement, accuracy, and fundamentals instead of trying to overpower Paul. He doubts Paul has the boxing ability to handle Davis's speed and intelligence, and thinks Davis will likely win by decision rather than knockout. While Stevenson feels the fight disrespects boxing by being such a mismatch, he is sure Davis is on a much higher level than Paul.
Here, when you've got what is like a 70-pound difference between these two guys.
I mean, size will play some part of the fight, but if I'm thinking like I'm Tank, I'm probably just gonna go out there and try to outbox him and use my knowledge and IQ against him. So I can see Tank just outboxing him and making it real easy.
Is there any way you could, any realistic or legitimate way in your mind you could see Jake Paul winning a fight against Tank?
No.
No way.
Nope.
Not a lot of people have talked about Jake and said he's got good power. Not even and I get anything could technically happen, but you don't even see a realistic shot where he could land one big punch, and Tank being so much smaller, he just can't handle the power.
Nah, not at all. I think Tank is he's been boxing his whole life. He's been boxing since a kid, so I doubt like that's gonna be an issue or problem. I think Jake is good for where he's at, but I think it's just levels.
What do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fighting?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. And he called cap on it. So if he won't call cap and say I'm not who I say I am, come prove it. I think it's dangerous for him to go back in there and fight Lamont. I think Lamont is a hell of a fighter. I can see that going left. So he better be on his A game.
Daniel Cormier has a mixed view of the fight. He respects Jake Paul for taking the risk of facing a skilled boxer like Gervonta Davis, but also points out the clear size difference that makes the matchup seem unfair. Cormier notes that Davis has more skill, experience, and pedigree, which puts Paul at a disadvantage. He also explains that both fighters have something to lose. Paul's credibility could take a hit if he loses, while Davis's reputation could suffer if he's beaten by a much bigger opponent. Although Cormier doesn't make a strong prediction, he leans toward Davis winning because of his boxing ability, while admitting Paul's size keeps the fight unpredictable.
I swear to God, I was on a plane coming home from Las Vegas. When Luis told me Gervonta Davis is fighting Jake Paul, I said, get the bleep out of here. I said, you're a bleep liar. Jake Paul is fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. Gervonta Davis is that much better than Jake Paul at boxing. But Gervonta Davis in his last fight weighed 133.8 pounds. And I'm not over here in the business of just crapping on Jake Paul. I am much more respectful of what he's starting to build as a professional boxer. You're fighting a guy that's better than you. He's just much smaller. But that guy, because he's better than you, what if he wins? Everything Jake Paul has done is wiped completely out. Gervonta Davis loses to Jake Paul. Obviously, it's going to hurt who Gervonta Davis is, but he lost to a guy that's going to be upwards of 70 pounds bigger than him when he steps into the boxing ring. But I will tell you this right now, without a shadow of a doubt, I will watch this. Tank Davis is 30-0-1. You want to talk about Jake Paul fighting a real boxer? That's a real boxer. You can't make this stuff up, man. It's true. They're fighting.
Teofimo Lopez sees the fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis more as a show than a battle for titles or pride, saying it's driven by money and attention rather than legacy. He feels there's nothing wrong with that since both fighters will earn huge paydays and the fight will attract mainstream interest. While it may not have the prestige of a championship bout, Lopez believes it still benefits boxing by bringing in new fans, creating excitement, and showing how big the sport can be when personality and entertainment are involved.
And I'm actually very happy for Gervonta and Jake. I really am, man. It's good for the sport in some way, you know?
So a heavyweight versus a lightweight.
Yeah.
You got a fly hit me, yeah. A heavyweight versus a lightweight. How's this going to work?
Hey, they make it work. It's an exhibition for a reason. So, you know, they know what they're doing. And, you know, shout out to Netflix and shout out to both of them, honestly. Like I said, I think a lot of people in the boxing world are kind of upset. I could care less. I think they're going to go out there and make their money. It falls on the number 8 for a reason. They're going to make a lot of money.
Have you got a prediction for that fight?
My prediction? A show. A show.
Well, clearly it's a show, but when you've got a lot of people underestimating Jake Paul once again, but when you've got a heavyweight boxer who knows how to throw punches and knows the basics against a lightweight, it's quite a difference. I mean, have you sparred heavyweights before?
Yeah.
For competitive sparring in the ring?
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same, not at all. Definitely got to move. I've actually played around a few times, went through between their legs just to duck around. But yeah, because they're taller, you know. But I think for that competition, that fight, it reminds me a lot like The Big Show, and Floyd Mayweather when they fought in WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And will that end the same way?
Possibly. Maybe some brass knuckles in there too.
Can you see Jake Paul knocking out Gervonta Davis?
It's boxing, man. And if it's a show like this, anything goes, anything happens. You know, we expected Mike Tyson to do something, didn't go out that way. Jake Paul's training very hard, so, you know, kudos to both guys. I'm not going to critique them.
Promoter Eddie Hearn agrees the fight will be huge, but says it blurs the line between real boxing and entertainment. He feels the matchup between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis is more of a business move than a true competition, pointing to the big size difference as proof it isn't a fair test of skill. Hearn admits the fight will bring massive global attention, sell tickets, and make a lot of money, but as someone who values real competition, he finds it concerning when fights are made mainly for profit instead of sporting merit. Still, from a promoter's view, he says it's a guaranteed success for business, even if boxing purists feel the sport's standards are being compromised.
They always told us that it was, you know, we were looking at that fight for February of next year, and they always said that there was a chance that Jake would fight in November. I think, wasn't I the one that broke Jake Paul against Gervonta Davis 6 months ago or something? I knew that they'd agree that deal. I didn't know they were about to announce it then, but I did know that they'd agreed that deal previously. So I don't like it, if I'm honest. I mean, I think we need to really differentiate between boxing and an entertainment concept, and that's what that is. It's a freak show. It's entertainment. It's a lightweight fighting a cruiserweight. You know, with, I don't know, is it bigger gloves and certain minutes per round? I don't know what it is, but, you know, I understand the market and I understand this freak show, shock kind of the world mentality of people potentially tuning in. Is that a step too far? Maybe. I mean, I hated Jake Paul against Mike Tyson, but it did massive numbers. I hate Jake Paul against Gervonta Davis. It'll probably do massive numbers. So that's when you really have to differentiate yourself between, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it isn't going to do good business. Now, whether you want to be involved with it is another kettle of fish. I don't want to be involved with it, but I do respect the fact that it's going to do big numbers. It's just not boxing. And I don't think we should promote it as boxing.
In the meantime then, Eddie, where does that leave you with Anthony Joshua? Are you exploring other options for the end of this year, or are you still looking at that fight for the beginning?
Yeah, no, we're not interested in the Jake Paul fight right now after that. I mean, like, you know, we're not going to wait around till November. Is it November or December, whenever it is? And
Raleigh Romero takes a balanced view of the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight, saying Davis's place in boxing is already secure no matter what happens. As a multi-division champion with big wins and titles, Davis has earned respect that won't be lost even if he's beaten by Paul. Romero admits Paul's bigger size is a real advantage, but he believes that doesn't take away from everything Davis has already accomplished. His legacy, titles, and respect in the sport will stay intact regardless of the result.
But like, Jake Paul might be too big for him, or Tank might crack him. You don't know. Like I said, like, or it's an exhibition. We don't know if they throw at each other or not, or we don't know. I don't know. I can't give an opinion because I don't know what's going on.
Do you think it impacts, like, will it impact Tank's legacy if Jake Paul were, like, to beat him or even, like, knock him out?
Dude, Tank's a 3-division world champion, a 4-time 3-division world champion. At the end of it, bro, you can't take anything away from him.
Paulie Malignaggi points out that experience is more important than size in boxing. He says while Jake Paul has gained popularity and has the advantage of being bigger, he cannot match Gervonta Davis's years of training, ring IQ, and experience against top fighters on the biggest stages. Malignaggi believes that in boxing, skill and experience usually matter more than physical strength, which gives Davis the clear edge.
Davis is more to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. Yeah. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah. But if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion, multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot that he still hasn't earned, mind you?
What do you think will happen when Jake Paul takes on Gervonta Davis? Will Davis's skill and experience be enough, or will Paul's size give him the edge? Share your prediction in the comments. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and stay informed. Stay tuned for more updates, and let's keep our news accurate.